There was an Empire Strikes Back. I remember I was pretty young. But Star Wars was the big one, but then the Empire Strikes Back, where Yoda, this little puppet, is like, you know, you are not this crude matter. He sounds like a Tibetan Lama, this little guy. And you are a luminous being. And I'm like, wow, yeah, maybe I'm not this crude matter. And it made me think about a lot of that stuff, even back when I was a kid. And the Master Dharmakirti in the Pramanavartika, the text on mental images and debates about how valid cognition in Tibetan Tsema, how I know Vince, my trusty chanting master, how my mind knows Vinceness. He argued that gross physical matter is not a suitable material cause for mind. It's not the same kind of stuff. Your mental continuum isn't, chemicals are not a reasonable material cause for consciousness. Consciousness, the reasonable material cause for consciousness is a previous moment of consciousness. You break it down into time. Before you came here, maybe you were walking down 4th Avenue, and you have an awareness, I was walking down 4th Avenue. And then I came into a Buddhist center, and there's a funny guy in red robes, and I'm hanging out with a book and listen to some Buddhist stuff, and then you have that awareness. The Westerners accept that mind can cause mind over time, because in a sense, you in kindergarten, you force your kid to go to kindergarten with the hope that if he continues his studies, eventually someday he'll be either a doctor or a lawyer or a rock star or a rap star and be able to pay your retirement. You believe that you can put things into a kid's mind. And it's a very heavy debate over, you know, like Western science, in their obstinance, would say that you can chalk all that up to chemicals and brain. But Buddhist, the classic Buddhist pundits would say that that's crazy. So, but the only, all this stuff is great. You know, you could study Buddhist stuff and get really into the whole definitions, and the only purpose for all these talks about mind is to make the point that it can change, it can radically shift, and that radical shift of your mind can change your reality. Master Dharmakirti wasn't talking about mind just because it was a cool thing to do, to hang around with the pundits and to debate about stuff because it was cool. He was trying to teach other people and say, hey, this is how you know things. You have these mental images, and you have different types of mental images. And those mental images are being forced on you by your karma. Wouldn't it be great if you can radically shift your karma and change those mental images, thereby changing your reality? You don't have to live in a world where you're forced to see yourself grow old, suffer, and die, and watch other people grow old, suffer, and die. That's the purpose. So to do that sounds much easier than it is. First and foremost, when they start, this text start out with, I bow down to all high and holy lamas. To find yourself a good teacher and stick to them like glue. Then you want to take on some kind of vows. It may not be in fashion, but to take on some kind of morality. Why? Because if you take on some kind of morality, then you have peace of mind. You don't worry who you've been screwing over. You have some kind of peace of mind. With that peace of mind, you study the teachings and you meditate on them. If you debate and you meditate on those teachings, now you've got the peace of mind where you can meditate on the teachings. If you've been out doing home invasions, it's hard to get peace of mind. Just ask anybody who's fought in any war about trying to get some peace of mind. The stuff that they've done, it usually eats at them. So the main thing is to get that peace of mind and go into meditation. To build that kind of meditation, first you get Tingenzen, which is like a kind of, everybody's got Tingenzen. Tingenzen is kind of like what you get in a really good movie. If you're really, really obsessed with a good film, and somebody can walk into a room, it's called samadhi. You get that kind of one-pointed focus, and everybody can get that pretty quickly. But then you really need a super version of that kind of concentration. You need kind of what they call shamatha, to see emptiness directly. You need shamatha, which is kind of, they call it the king of concentration. You want to use that amazing kind of one-pointed concentration to analyze the object, emptiness. Hatam. Yeah. So to get there, tough. The purpose of having that direct perception of emptiness, as I said earlier, with that direct perception of emptiness, you, for the first time, after you come out of that direct perception of emptiness, you see that all the mental afflictions that you generate in your mind are based on a misperception. They call it gapcha in Tibetan. It's the tendency. Vince, my chanting master, he seems like a pretty cool guy, but I could have the view that he's an asshole, you know, or a creep. Now, when you have a view of a person being a real creep, it comes up very strongly, and you're like, oh, screw that dude. I hate him. He really is definitively an a-hole. In your mind, you cling to this. You're not, as you're generating that state of mind, you're not understanding his subtle impermanence. You're not understanding his emptiness. That person, in an ultimate sense, is dependent on your past karma and your mental projections. There is a base of designation for Vince Ness. There's colors, there's shapes. There used to be more beard colors and shapes, but now those have changed. But usually there's a base, an object for you to put on that sheen. And there's in different Buddhist schools, they argue about whether or not Vince's parts have an essence. The highest school would say that when you get down to Vince's parts, those too you're organizing, you're projecting, being forced on you by your past karma. Some schools say no, like the lower schools, his parts clearly, Vince's parts came from Vince's mommy and daddy, and that's just that, and they have an existence. Problem is with that, if those parts have an essence, then they won't change. If they can hold an essence, they won't change. And if they don't change, then I could never, no matter how many how much meditation and how much religious practice I do, those parts will never change for me. And if those parts won't change for me, then there are parts to my reality that will not shift. And there will be flaws in my paradise. And if that's the case, there'd be no reason to practice Buddhism. Then it'd be a shitty world, and we've already got a shitty world. We may have, in your mind, you may think the world is shitty 60%, falls apart. You may say 100%, depending on where you're at. The fact that it can change is great. You can change it into a paradise. The fact that it's 100% changeable is a great thing. What sucks is that you have lots of dirty karma, seeds, bad karma, the result of bad karma ripening in your mind, and mental afflictions based on that ignorance. That fundamental ignorance that I just spoke of. You take all phenomena to have some kind of substantial, unchanging, inherent existence.